If you're watching this, there's a good chance you're not quite ready to retire, but you're also pretty sure you don't want to keep working the way that you are now. You've done the full time job, you've done the long weeks, the meetings that fill the calendar, and the pace that never really slows down. And while you're not done contributing or using your experience, you're probably done doing it on somebody else's schedule. That in between place is where a lot of people find themselves. And it's also where a lot of people get stuck. Most conversations about retirement assume that there's only two choices. You either keep working full time or you stop working altogether. But for many experienced professionals, neither option really fits. You don't want to walk away from income overnight, and you don't want to wake up one day without purpose, structure, or a sense that your experience still matters. What you're really looking for is a pathway, a bridge between a full 9 to 5 career and full retirement. That's where consulting or freelancing comes in. Consulting works especially well for people who are thinking about their next chapter, not their last one. It gives you a way to step out of a traditional job without stepping away from work entirely. This isn't about starting over, and it's definitely not about building something huge. It's about using what you already know in a way that fits the life you want now. And this is something I've seen firsthand and lived myself. When I stepped away from a traditional full time role, it wasn't because I wanted to stop working. It was because I wanted more control over my time and how my experience was being used and valued. Consulting gave me that option without forcing an all or nothing decision. Let me give you a real world example. Imagine somebody in their mid 50s who spent most of their career in management or operations. They decide to leave their full time role, but instead of retiring, they take on one or two consulting clients. They're working maybe 15 hours a week, focusing on problem solving, process improvement, and advising leadership rather than being in the day to day weeds. Their income doesn't even have to change, but their flexibility increases dramatically. They're no longer tied to a daily schedule, and over the next few years, they gradually reduce their workload even more. That's not starting over. That's a planned transition towards retirement. Here's another example. Think about somebody in their early 60s with deep experience in finance, technology, marketing, or strategy. They don't want another executive role. They don't want to manage a team, and they definitely don't want a 40-hour work week. Instead, they move into an advisory consulting role. They review plans, they guide decisions, and offer perspective when it's needed. They might work seasonally or on short term projects, which gives them long stretches of freedom while still staying mentally engaged and earning income. That's consulting and freelancing as a pathway, not a grind. This approach tends to work best for people who have had years or decades of experience, who are valued for their judgment rather than just their output, and who care more about flexibility and autonomy than climbing another ladder. It's also a great fit for people who want their income to taper gradually instead of disappearing overnight. So, what makes consulting such a strong bridge to retirement? First, there's control. You get to decide how much you work, who you work with, and when you say no. Second, there's flexibility. Working 10 or 20 hours a week is realistic. Taking extended time off is possible, and your workload can change as your life changes. There's also income without intensity. Consulting allows you to monetize experience rather than effort. You're being paid for perspective, decision making, and problem solving, not for constant availability for long hours. And finally, there's continuity. You don't lose your sense of purpose or relevance overnight. You stay engaged and connected to your work without being consumed by it. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming consulting or freelancing has to be all or nothing. And it doesn't. It can be one or two clients, short term projects, advisory, or fractional work. The goal here isn't growth, it's design. It's about designing work that supports where you are now and where you're headed next. If you're not ready to retire, but you are ready to step away from the grind of a full 9 to 5, consulting and freelancing may not just be an option for you, it may be a bridge that gets you there. If this resonates with you, you are in the right place. I talk a lot about building consulting and fractional work around your life, not the other way around. So if you're interested, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.